you're having to say no to a lot of things. People inviting you out, and some of the friends that you may have who decided to go the more traditional route, they're starting to experience some level of success in their career path. And now you're sitting here like, did I make the wrong decision? Should I go back and maybe go down the path that they went? And you're sitting there questioning yourself. That's when your resolve and your resilience is going to be tested. Are you willing to double down and enjoy the process of becoming the best version of yourself in order to get to where you want to be? What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Founder Fires. This is really our first official episode. And if I'm looking off camera, it's because I got my man Jay here. He's going to be kind of making sure I stay on track with what we're going to be discussing. And ultimately, the theme of today's podcast is the test of success that all founders are going to face. Now, as I'm thinking about this, I think about the background and where this really came from studying Joseph in the Bible and looking at the pattern of the challenges that he had to face. And then also realizing like that is pretty much the challenges that every single person who has great ambition is going to face. So I've broken these into 3 different categories, and depending on how much time we have, we might be able to cover all 3 or able to cover 1 or 2, but just know like wherever we leave off, I'll continue the next episode and potentially turn this into a series. But the test of success looks something like this, right? You're trying to climb to the top of the mountain. And the top of the mountain is where you reach your goals. Everything on the way there is going to challenge 3 different aspects of your character or 3 different aspects of you as a person. So number 1 is going to challenge like your perspective, your belief. Number 2 is going to challenge your discipline and character. And number 3 is just going to challenge like your skill sets. Like, do you have the skills to cross and get to that next step? The first test of success as a founder is a test of uncertainty. When you're about to start something new, that first test, you're terrified. Think about a time when you were about to start, when you start something new, or when you were about to start your business, when you're about to quit your job, whatever it is. That was probably the most terrifying experience because there's so much uncertainty on the other side. When I made a decision, I wanted to start my business and start a business online. The first time that I was going to make a post about it or record a video and post it on social media, I was so scared that I needed somebody else to schedule that post for me because the feeling of being uncertain, I don't know what the future was going to hold. I don't know what is going to be on the other side of that. I don't know what any of that look like. So there's a bunch of uncertainty. I was terrified of what my family will think, terrified of what my friends will think. I had no real examples of people who've made that leap that I could really model. There was a ton of doubt. There was a ton of fear. All I really knew is that staying where I was and keeping things status quo was no longer an acceptance. Like I was no longer willing to accept status quo, that I had to make the leap. So what happens when you're faced with this fear or faced with this test? A lot of people have great ideas, but the fear and the test of uncertainty, they fail that test and never even get started. All right. So the first test you're going to experience is going to be uncertainty. And the thing about these tests is that each time you reach a new level, you have to pass a more difficult version of the test of uncertainty. Every single level. The first test was posting my first video and just getting to a point where I can actually post the first video. That was terrifying. And then the next test was figuring out how to sell a product online and whether or not I can actually make somebody an offer and they would actually give me money for a product or service. That was terrifying. All right. So each level that you go, there's always a new level of uncertainty and you're going to have to face that. The thing about it is these tests get a lot more difficult. All right. And your ability to cross that chasm It's going to come down to your faith and your conviction in what you're doing. It's going to come down to your discipline, your character, your willingness to do what's required day in and day out. And then it's going to come down to your skill sets. Do you have this skill that you need to kind of get to that next level? Are you willing to work on those things? Each level is going to be more difficult. All right. So first level was posting on social media, as stupid as that sounds. It was terrifying. Next level was actually making my first sale, getting on a sales call. I've never taken sales before. I've never done sales. I've never done anything in that regard. So getting on the phone with someone and trying to sell them our product that I just made not long ago with no track record was terrifying. As you start to get there, now you start getting customers. Now it's like, okay, how do I make sure these guys are getting the results that they need? Another level of uncertainty. So there's just so many different levels of uncertainty that you face, right? And then the biggest level of uncertainty was when we launched Charlie. And launched Charlie didn't have a bunch of money to just fund this product. And then we get slapped with I get slapped with a lawsuit. So now I'm like, man, like I'm sitting here looking at this new venture that we're about to start. And then I have to face a 3,000-pound gorilla in the form of litigation. And now there's just a ton of uncertainty of like, what if things don't work out? What if we have to file for bankruptcy, which is something that we have to seriously consider? It's going to happen at every single level, right? There's no way to get around it. You're going to face uncertainty, and you're going to face challenges that make you question whether or not it's even worth starting in the first place. All right. So if you're going through the test of, if you're feeling uncertain, if you're wanting to start something, or if there's an investment that you need to make in your business or in yourself, and you're just sitting there just dealing and wrestling with uncertainty, the thing that's helped me overcome it time and time again is when I'm the most afraid to do something, right? When I feel the most anxiety about a new project or a new venture that I'm considering, that feeling of anxiety is confirmation for me that I need to move forward, right? So I've trained and conditioned myself to like, if I feel like, man, there's just a lot of uncertainty and the weight of the decision that needs to get made is big, that's confirmation for me. Like, I know that God is telling me I need to pursue this path, right? And so that's the belief system that I've developed that lets me know, okay, this feeling that I'm getting right now, like this uneasiness that I'm feeling, that's actually a confirmation that I probably need to pursue this path, right? And that served me very well. It helped me. I mean, there's a lot of different stories and a lot of different situations that feeling has helped me with. Because in 2020, when I was going to launch my consulting company, got slapped with another lawsuit. I mean, I'll probably talk about that in a different session, but uncertainty is the biggest thing that we have to be able to overcome as founders. And you have to be comfortable being very, very uncertain and not knowing what the outcome looks like. Like, you stare into the abyss and you're looking at what feels like a black hole and it's sucking all the light, and you don't know what the light at the end of the tunnel looks like. You're just staring into a black hole, all right? There's no light at the end of the tunnel. So what you have to do is you have to envision what that light looks like at the end of the tunnel and start working on creating that. All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, the test of uncertainty finds its way in pretty much everything that I do. Right. And now I know how to recognize when that test is coming, but a lot of entrepreneurs struggle because that first test is terrifying, right? It's really going to test whether or not you actually want to do the thing that you're saying that you want to do. And that's really where that uncertainty comes from, is like, you're afraid that what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if it's, What are people going to think of me? Things like that. So that test of uncertainty is going to rear its ugly head in many ways, right? And then once you start the thing and you're able to drum up enough courage to actually do the thing, the next test is a test of perseverance, right? Like, do you actually want to reach the top of the mountain? Are you in it for the long haul? Right. So Alex Ramosi has this saying where it's like there's uninformed optimism, right? When you start something, there's uninformed optimism. You just like, oh, everything's gonna work out. It's gonna be blue skies and rainbows. And then when you start doing the thing and shit starts hitting you in the face, then there becomes informed pessimism. Right now you're like, oh man, this sucks. This is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. And I look at this second phase as a test of perseverance, right? It's the test of perseverance. It is like, are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to develop the discipline? And are you willing to develop the skill that's going to help you close the gap from where you are to where you want to be? All right. And as you're developing skills and as you're developing your resilience and your grit, you have to be willing to let go of baggage, right? You have to be willing to let go of anything that's slowing you down. You have to be willing to work on the flaws in your character, in your skill sets, and you have to be willing to really work on yourself. So that second test of perseverance is like, I view it like God is asking, like, do you really want this thing? Are you willing to persevere for this thing? Are you willing to endure challenges? Are you willing to endure hardships? Are you willing to evolve and become better? All right. So the second test of perseverance is where you really start to have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, man, do I really want this thing? Right. You've already passed the first test of uncertainty and you've started and you're trying to get things going. You've declared to the world that this is what you're going to do. This is where you want to be. This is your vision. And you're starting this new venture. All right. Then now you got to decide, are you willing to stick it out for the long haul? All right. What are the gaps between where you are now and where you want to be? And are you willing to learn and fill in that gap? And are you willing to work on the things that are going to help you get one step closer day in and day out with no sign of reward in sight? That's really that test of perseverance, because things are going to take a lot longer than you want, and it'll happen a lot faster than anyone anticipated. But not because it's happening fast, but because there's nothing exciting about the stage that you're in. You're just struggling. You're sitting there just trying to figure it out. You're barely making ends meet. You're barely building traction. You're figuring out all the different ways that you really suck at the thing that you're doing, and you're starting to develop skill. In that phase, you're having to say no to a lot of things, right? People inviting you out, people, and some of the friends that you may have who decided to go the more traditional route, they're starting to experience some level of success in their career path. And now you're sitting here like, man, like, did I make the wrong decision? Should I go back and maybe go down the path that they went? And you're sitting there questioning yourself, and really that's when your resolve and your resilience is going to be tested, right? Are you willing to double down and enjoy the process of becoming the best version of yourself in order to get to where you want to be? And that's what that second test of perseverance is all about. It's going from when you pass a test of uncertainty, you're saying like where you want to go. You have a greater pull towards where you want to go than your desire to be comfortable and stay where you are now, right? The pull for where you want to go has to be greater than your desire to be comfortable in order for you to pass that test of uncertainty. All right. To pass the test of perseverance, you're running a marathon. So there's no sprint to the finish line. So you have to enjoy the process of running that race Otherwise, you're not going to make it because the finish line is nowhere in sight. People are willing to struggle for an extended period of time if there's a clear path to the finish line. Entrepreneurship, there's no clear path to the finish line. So you have to take your eyes off the finish line and look down and focus on just one step at a time and figuring out how to enjoy the process of just taking one step at a time and working on the journey. And if you can learn to enjoy the journey of going to your destination, you're going to pass the test of perseverance. Again, this is like the test of uncertainty. Each level that you reach requires a different type of perseverance, right? You're going to need to decide, okay, well, am I okay at the current level that I'm at, or do I want to strive for something greater? And then you got to be willing to persevere, eat the shit, eat glass, get kicked in the nuts, and do whatever it's going to take to close that gap to get to that next level. All right. So at each level that you're working towards, there's always going to be this test, right? Nothing has tested my perseverance more than building a software company. Like nothing has tested my perseverance. I can't tell you how many times I've quit in my heart. Like I'm looking at all the issues. I'm looking at the bugs. I'm looking at the complaints. I'm looking at the churn. I'm looking at the refund requests. I'm looking at the chargebacks. And I'm looking at our bank account just dwindle down to like nothing. And I'm like, man, like, I don't even know if this thing is worth it. I don't even know if it's worth it. And then we'll have a glimmer of hope. All right. Last year, there was an awesome glimmer of hope and in the form of a vendor. And it was going to be like a $400,000 opportunity. And then as we dug deep into the business and that company that wanted to do business with us, they were so unethical. Like God would not allow me to do anything with them. And so I'm sitting here like, man, $450K is nothing to sneeze at. Like we desperately need the money, but it would have been a decision that would sacrifice long-term satisfaction for short-term pleasure. All right. So ultimately made the decision that we weren't going to move forward with the deal. And it sucked. The team questioned why I did that, why I would pull the plug on it. We spent so much time working on the deal. We spent so many hours developing a product, developing all the APIs and everything needed to make this deal work. And then it was like a week before we pull the trigger on it, I end up pulling out and essentially saying, we just can't do it. New information have surfaced and I just can't justify taking that kind of risk. So now we're like having to, it's one thing when you don't have the finish line in sight. It's another thing when you have it there and then you have to, you have to reroute yourself and like, you know what, we're going to have to take the scenic route and take the longer way to get here when there's a clear shortcut. All right. So in doing that, it was a really hard time. Like we had to get very, very crafty. I had to let people go. In making that decision, I had to let 8 people go. Have conversations with 8 different people whose income and whose families were being fed as a result of the business that we're building. All right. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I didn't sleep. It was really, really tough. Right. And for me, I mean, I cried a bunch trying to think through and wrestle through how am I going to do that? Right. And that's where like that test of perseverance, I can speak to it because I've been there. Once I made the hard decisions, had the hard conversations, and the people that I had to let go are really good people. They were good culture fits, but the business wasn't in a place where I can justify keeping them on. All right. So that was really, really challenging. But what happened maybe like 6 months later, the company that we're going to do business with end up getting hit with a class action lawsuit, and they ended up getting bankrupt and they were out of business. I couldn't tell you 6 months before that, when I was staring down the barrel of a freaking shotgun, looking at our payroll, looking at the potential revenue opportunity that this was going to generate, and then making the decision to be like, we can't do this, right? I couldn't tell you that I knew 6 months later that they were going to be out of business. I just knew that I was going to sleep better at night, knowing that I wouldn't have to worry about my reputation being at stake, right? Knowing that I wouldn't have to worry about the integrity of the people that we're doing business with. So that was a really hard decision to make. And then it was validated 6 months later when all this stuff came out, and they're completely out of business. Their product is gone. They're bankrupt, and they owe a lot of people a lot of money because of malpractice. All right, but at that time, everyone on the team thought I was an idiot. We just can be completely honest, right? And then to see all these people having to get let go, right? And then it's just like, man, like, are you sure about this, Iggy? Are you really sure you want to do this? I'm like, no, but I believe God is guiding me. All right. And so it ended up working out. And then the cool thing is as we persevered through that, and we put our head down and just started enjoying the process of iterating and trying to get the product as good as possible, better and more incredible opportunities start to come. All right. So that test of perseverance, it's really going to test your resolve. It's going to test your resilience, and it's going to test your integrity and your willingness to do things the right way. All right. And there's a lot of things that happened during that period from like 2023 to mid 2024. And there's a lot of stress, and a lot of terrible decisions were made under that pressure. But that was kind of like I was in the fire. I was getting cooked. I was getting cooked. And it was hard. Hardest 2 years of my entire life, But the cool thing about the perseverance and the challenges and being put through the fire is that a lot of imperfections get exposed when you're under the heat. One of my mentors used to say, people are like tea bags, right? You don't really know what they're made of until you put them in hot water, and then their true colors start oozing out, right? Because that's what happens with tea. Every tea bag looks kind of like unassuming, and then you put it in hot water, and then you see all the colors really coming out. And he would say, like, when you're in the heat and your true colors are being exposed, a lot of ugly things are going to come. A lot of ugly things are going to be exposed, but you get to decide what you want to do when you're confronted with the ugly truths about yourself, about your character, about your lack of discipline, or your lack of skill, right? Or your belief and mindset. So during that time, I was confronted with a lot of ugly truths about myself that I had to face, that I'd be willing to work on, that I'd be willing to confront and accept and be like, you know what? I need to work on these things if I'm going to get to the level that I believe God is calling me to reach. Otherwise, we're not going to be around for very long. All right. So those are like the two tests. There's one more test that we'll go over because we're getting close on time here, but I want to just kind of recap for those guys who are listening, and you're either considering starting your company, or you're launching your product idea, whatever it is, and you're facing the test of uncertainty, right? Or if you've started and you're in the fire, like you're getting cooked and you're staring down the barrel of a very large gun and you don't know what to do. You're going through the test of perseverance. Just remember, these are tests, right? These are tests designed to ultimately help you become the best version of yourself and help you reach and have the impact that you want to have. But if you're not willing to go through those tests and pass the test, you're never going to reach the other side. Right? So sit down and I want you to think through what are the tests that you're going through. Right? So as we close out, I want you to, in the comments, give us a 6-word update. So in 6 words or less, how would you summarize the things that you're grabbing from this episode? Like, what are your biggest takeaways in 6 words or less? And then comment your case in point. Like, why is that relevant to you? So 6-word update is just 6 words or less, summarizing the biggest lessons that you're taking away, right? And then why is it relevant to you? And the reason why I share the 6-word update is because it forces you to put the lessons and the things that you're feeling and the examples that you're resonating with. It forces you to put into containers, right? And words are containers that allows us to transfer information and recall information very quickly. So when you put those experiences into 6 words or less, I'm forcing you to put it into like very tight containers that allows you to recall those lessons a lot faster. And then when you share the case in point, it gives you the ability to a timestamp of what you were thinking when you were writing those 6-word updates and the lessons that you were getting. And the cool thing is that when you revisit an episode like this, maybe 6 months or a year down the track, and you look at your 6-word update, you might be in a completely different place and you might get something completely different from the episode because you're at a different level and what resonates with you is different, right? So that's what I want to help you guys do, is really be able to capture the lessons that you're learning. Because if you don't capture the lessons that you're learning and put them down, you're going to repeat them because you eventually forget them, right? So by putting them down, the 6-word update and the case in point is going to allow you to timestamp it, give you the ability to go back and look at them. And when you eventually start forgetting, you can reflect and be like, oh, I remember this situation. I've been in this situation like this before. I've been in a fire like this before. And it was because I would remember the previous fire that I went through that I was able to be like, okay, we're going to be able to get through this. I've been here before, way different temperature, nowhere close to as hot as what I'm going through now, but I've been in the heat before. And the only thing that got me through it last time was confronting the ugly truths and making the decision to work on the gaps and fill in the gaps to get to where I want to be. So hope you guys found this helpful. This is a different type of format, but as we start to expand the podcast and the format, the goal is going to be to share the lessons from my own scars, but then give other people an opportunity to come and share their scars, and then we can all talk about how entrepreneurship is the hardest thing that any one of us has ever had to do. So until next time, stay calm, change lives, and have business on the terms. Peace.